The first in the nation New Hampshire primary is less than 3 weeks away. Paula Ebben checks in on a voting tradition that will live on this February.
To Campaign 2020 now and the midnight voting tradition of Dixville Notch. This small community near the Canadian border is one of the first to cast ballots in the presidential election. Nicole Sganga is in Manchester, New Hampshire for us. And Nicole, we know you traveled to Dixville Notch this week, and that midnight vote was in jeopardy for a while.
That's right, and the Dixville Notch midnight voting tradition began all the way back in 1960. It has seen presidential candidates from Jimmy Carter to John McCain. In fact, Governor George Romney launched his 1968 Republican presidential bid by bringing an elephant up to Dixville Notch, if you can believe it. And it's not some slice of Americana either. It is located on the Balsams Resort. But when that resort closed in 2011, many of the people who used to vote in Dixville Notch disappeared. And so the town was not quite sure whether they would have the 5 necessary voters to participate and create the polling station on its 60th anniversary. Of course, Tom Tillotson, the town moderator, was pleased to say they found a 5th voter. Here's what he had to say about that tradition.
I remember just getting out of the shower once and getting a phone call from the senior Bush, on re-election night, and having a conversation before I'd even gotten dressed with the President of the United States. Wow, that's kind of weird.
Nicole, glad the tradition remains. Who's this mysterious 5th voter who registered in Dixville Notch?
Well, his name is Leslie Otten, and he is a developer, and he is moving back full-time to Dixville Notch to participate in the voting tradition and work on the Balsam Resort, which he hopes will reopen in 2 years' time. He is the only Republican voter in all of Dixville Notch. We should mention, though, that Dixville Notch is not the only township to vote, or the only place to vote at midnight come primary day here. There's also Millsfield and Hart's Location. We spoke with Representative Ed Butler in Hart's Location about that township's tradition.
Hart's Location has a byline, first in the nation. It's first in the nation because we are the smallest town in New Hampshire. We have, I think, 45 residents now. We have been doing the first vote since the late 40s at midnight. In part because some of the people were working on the railroad, and it made better sense for them to be voting early in the morning after midnight rather than having to get off the train or get up early in order to do the vote.
And Paula, one thing we should note is that in order to complete the midnight voting process in these towns, Hart's Location, Millsfield, and Dixville Notch, every single voter must be accounted for in order for those votes to count. And so in the case of a place like Dixville Notch, it's easy to wrangle 5 voters, but for Hart's Location, it involves a lot of cooperation in tiny towns in order to cast those ballots first in the nation.
Once every 4 years, it is a great tradition. Nicole Sganga, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Now, the race for the White House goes straight through New Hampshire. Stay with CBSN Boston and WBZ for live coverage of the New Hampshire primary leading up to and on February 11th.